Oh yeah, Brittany. Yeah, right. All right. Can everyone hear me? All right. Oh, I think this adjusts down. Does this adjust down? Oh, okay. Yeah, as long as you can hear me. Can you hear me? Great. So in April of this year, the day after Pesach, I packed my bag and I went on a pilgrimage. I think it'd be too much to say that I was inspired by the Exodus story, but indeed there was some biblical symbolism. I wandered along the trail for 40 days and 40 nights. I met a woman named Maria who was walking with a man named Joe, Mary, and Joseph. And together we walked with a young girl whose last name was suspiciously close to Shepherd. And as much as I went to seriously contemplate my life, the universe, as it always does, it had other plans for me. And it sent them to me in the same way that the universe always sends its plans, in the form of the people who you meet along your journey. The Camino de Santiago is known as the Way of St. James. It starts from points all over Europe, and it comes together in northwestern Spain at the cathedral in Santiago. I traveled the French way, beginning as many pilgrims do in a town just east of the Pyrenees. But wherever a pilgrim begins their journey, the paths converge at the Holy Crypt, at a reliquary that is said to contain the remains of the patron saint. The time it takes depends on how quickly you walk, or bike, or ride your horse. I saw that a couple times. I walked an average of 4 to 5 hours a day for about 33 days to travel the nearly 800 kilometers to arrive at the cathedral. And pilgrims have been doing this for literally 1,000 years. Last year, 175,000 of them did it. Some complete it in chunks over time. Others, like me, we do it all in one shot. I met folks who were doing it because they had time between jobs. I met folks who were doing it because they heard there was a fountain of wine along the trail, and it's true. It's very well marked. Tents are not required, and there are plenty of options for food and shelter if, in a pinch, you're willing to sleep on a floor, or in a pinch, eat the same food for many, many meals. El turista exige, el peregrino agradece, they say. The tourist makes demands, but the pilgrim gives thanks. And I'm very confident that embracing that motto was really part of the process. One of my favorite Camino pilgrims was Graham. Chain-smoking, drink-loving Graham, who hails from Ireland but spent time in Canada and worked for Google and packed way too much in his backpack. You really couldn't have paid Graham to walk an extra day, and when he got to Santiago, I swear he was the happiest man on earth. When he learned that a friend of mine and I were walking another 100 kilometers to the ocean, to a town called Finisterre, to the end of the earth, as it were, he just thought we were nuts. Just nuts. Mad, he called us. Stark raving mad. But 2 days later, when my friend and I were already well on our way to the ocean, we got the strangest message from Graham. And I quote, "It looks like I'm off to Finisterre after all, so that's a surprise. I was actually here in the airport, ready to go home, and I just decided I better see the end of the earth while I'm here." Laughing while crying emoji. And then he sent us a photo of himself at the airport as proof that he was really at the airport and turned around to keep going. That's the Camino for you. Sure, you might say that he was just so close to the ocean he figured it would be a waste to not see it. But my working theory is that Graham, like so many others, he let the Camino, the symbolism, the sense of pilgrimage, he let that get into him, and that's what compelled him to turn around and press on. Maria and Joe, back to them for a moment, they were my favorite Camino couple. They met on day 2 of the Camino and were separable the rest of the way. Joe was a retired American tech entrepreneur, Maria a translator from Sweden. She had bright and clear blue eyes and a truly loving energy to her, and Joe was just a barrel of laughs. Classic of the easygoing, slap you on the back, gentle giant kind of business guy. They were really great together. I ran into them several times, and in the way that the people you meet become your messengers of truth, Maria, she had a message for me. At breakfast one morning, Joe stepped away from the table, and Maria took her opportunity. Over a slice of Spanish apple cake, she said, "I came to the Camino to think seriously about my life. I'm normally a very serious person. Instead," she said, "with Joe, I've been laughing the whole time." Always being serious, she concluded, "I think this is not the way. And this is what the Camino set out to teach me." It was that afternoon that I met Stacy. Stacy and I like to say we met in Vegas. But really, we joined forces in the very small town of Vega de Valcarce. Before Vega, I was still in my resistant Camino phase, in which I reasoned that I had come to do it alone, that was the purer, deeper, more profound, more monastic approach, and that essentially I was not there to make friends. I was there to seriously contemplate my life. So when I met Stacy the first time, the second time, and the third time, I was the typical West Coaster. I was very pleasant to her, but I didn't invite her to dinner. It was the fourth time on our way out of Vega. She was up ahead, about to take a break, and I was about to pass her with a simple hello, but instead, she scooped up her pack, and with her bright eyes full of energy, she said, "I'll walk with you." That day, we walked together, and just like Joe and Maria, we laughed the whole time. Stacy is a writer. She has the sharpest mind and a passion for really great symbolism. It took us about 2 seconds to put together that Maria and Joe met me on the Camino, the nice young Jewish kid, and walking together, we were a very entertaining trinity. We never quite figured out what Stacy's role would be in the creche, although she was very clear that she was not prepared to play the donkey. She and I amused ourselves for hours. When we ran out of things to say about ourselves, we talked about our partners. When we were bored of our partners, we talked about our families, our friends, and then even our friends of friends. People thought we were dating. We met more characters along the way. There was never shortage of fodder for our stand-up comedy routine. It wasn't all laughs and giggles, though. Conversations also turned to the serious. Stacy, for example, is a cancer survivor. She began her Camino in 2012 and completed the first half of it that year. When she was diagnosed with a rare and dangerous form of cancer 2 years later, she had every reason to believe that she wouldn't be back. And now, 2 years later, this was her year. She was alive and well and back to the Camino to finish what she had started. It was mere moments before we arrived at Santiago that I made some comment about the meaning of life. "Oh," she said. "Oh, well, I know the meaning of life." I turned and stopped to look at her. We've been walking together for 7 days and have literally been talking for hours on end. And now you wait to tell me that you know the meaning of life? She just smiled. She smiled her wide, toothy smile at me and shrugged and said, "You never asked." It seemed fitting anyway, there on Mount Joy, that Stacy would reveal her message to me. Love, she said. The meaning of life is love. We walked on in silence, contemplating the truth of it. And it wasn't long before we both started up again, chattering on about love and meaning and humor and life, knowing that in finding each other, we had fulfilled a sacred purpose as we descended into the holy city and drew near the remains of the saint. Shabbat Shalom.
Stuff. Kevin, thank you so much for sharing and also for taking that journey.